The city lights blurred by as Taehyung strolled down the empty street, one hand in his coat pocket. The other holding his phone close to his ear, a faint smile graced his face. Laughter spilling out at intervals, he was immersed in his conversation, eyes down, too lost in the banter to notice the dangers around him. His friend on the line, someone he hadn't spoken to in ages, was throwing memories at him like confetti. Bringing up those silly stories from their college days, laughing about pranks, absurd mishaps, and the freedom of youth. They were deep in nostalgia, losing track of everything but their shared memories. Ah, remember that time you spilled coffee all over Professor Kim? I swear, the way he glared. Yes, yes, I thought I was going to get expelled that day. Taehyung laughed, his voice ringing through the quiet of the late night street. But just as he chuckled, his laughter was abruptly cut off. A blaring horn shattered the silence, and headlights from a speeding car rushed towards him. By the time he looked up, there was no time to react. The impact hit hard. His body crashed against the windshield before the car screeched to a stop. Sending him sprawling onto the pavement. The world around him dissolved into painful darkness. Vine was finishing up some work at home when her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, expecting one of Taehyung's typical late night messages, only to see an unknown number calling. Confused, she picked up, and the words on the other end of the line drained all the color from her face. Miss Ryan, there's been an accident. Kim Taehyung, someone you know, I believe, is at Seoul General Hospital. The phone slipped from her hand, clattering to the floor as panic surged through her veins. Her mind refused to process the information. This couldn't be real, not her Taehyung. But reality hit as she raced out, her heart pounding with every step, as if trying to outrun the truth itself. The hospital was sterile, clinical, but all Wine felt was a suffocating dread. She demanded Taehyung's room number from the front desk and hurried through the quiet or corridors. Finally, she reached his room and pushed open the door, feeling her breath catch as she saw him lying on the bed. Taehyung was covered in bruises, cuts lining his cheeks, his hair messy and matted. Machines peeped around him. Tubes connected to his arms, and his chest rose and fell in a labored rhythm. He looked fragile, so different from the lively, confident man she knew. Seeing him like this shattered something in her, and she fought back tears, pulling a chair close to his bed. The doctors explained the severity of his injuries, but all one heard was the possibility that he might not wake up the same. They warned her of memory loss, amnesia, trauma, each word slicing through her heart. She spent the entire night by his side, holding his hand, murmuring comforting words, even though he couldn't hear them. You're going to be okay, Taehyung. I'm right here. Please, just come back to me. The hours crawled by, and the quiet beeping of the machines was the only sound keeping her anchored in the grim reality. She rested her head beside his hand, exhaustion eventually taking over as she dozed off, only to jolt awake every few minutes, checking to make sure he was still there, still breathing. Morning light seeped into the room, casting soft rays across Taehyung's face. Wan blinked, disoriented, until she remembered where she was. Her gaze flew to Taehyung and she gasped as she saw his eyelids flutter. Slowly he stirred, his face contorting with a hint of discomfort. She leaned forward, holding her breath as he opened his eyes, blinking against the brightness. She whispered, her voice thick with relief. He turned his head, his eyes locking onto hers. But instead of the warmth she expected, there was only confusion. His brows furrowed, and he looked at her with a mix of caution and unease. Who who are you? The words hit her like a blow to the chest. She stumbled back, feeling her heart drop, a shaky smile on her face as she tried to reassure herself. It's me. Don't you remember? She reached out, hoping that maybe her touch would trigger something, anything within him. But Taehyung's expression remained blank. He pulled his hand away, his eyes flickering around the room, gaze unsettled. I don't know you, he said, his voice edged with frustration. Where am I? What happened? Her throat tightened as she struggled to process his words. Taehyung, you don't remember anything. 4 years of memories, midnight calls, laughter filled dates, quiet nights holding each other close flashed through her mind. The warmth of his embrace, the feeling of his hand in hers, the way he'd look at her like she was his entire world. It was all slipping away, dissolving in front of her, only leaving emptiness. No, I don't, he said more adamantly, this time as though asserting it would help him grasp some semblance of control over his fragmented mind. A doctor entered the room, assessing the scene with a practiced calm, and quietly led Ryan out into the hall to explain. The doctor's face was sympathetic, yet cautious as he broke the situation down in clinical terms. He is experiencing retrograde amnesia, the doctor said. It's not uncommon with head injuries. Sometimes patients lose specific memories or even entire segments of their lives. He is disoriented, which is natural, but with time and care, there is a chance his memory could return. The hope in those words was like a faint flicker in the dark, but it wasn't enough to quell the hurt. Her mind reeled, thinking back on every memory they'd built, the life they'd shared. It was as if all of it had been erased in a split second. Is there anything I can do to help him remember? She asked. The doctor gave a gentle nod. It might help if you stay close, remind him of things you used to do together, familiar places. But don't push him too hard. Forcing memories can sometimes lead to more confusion. Vine nodded, her heart aching with each word. She took a deep breath, determined to help him find his way back to her, but nothing could have prepared her for what happened next. When she returned to Taehyung's room, there was someone else there, a young woman with soft features, dressed casually but with a familiarity in her posture that made one's stomach twist. Taehyung's face lit up when she saw the woman, his gaze softening in a way Wyan hadn't seen before the accident. Suji, he murmured, a gentle smile tugging at his lips. Wyan's heart skipped a beat, her stomach plummeting as she watched the scene unfold. Taehyung was looking at this woman with an intimacy and warmth that used to be hers. He remembered her, Suji, whoever she was, but he didn't remember Wyan. The realization was a jagged edge tearing through her mind with merciless clarity. Taehyung, Wyan spoke softly, forcing herself to stay calm. Who is she? He glanced at her, irritation flashing in his eyes, and tightened his grip on Suji's hand. She's she's the person I care about, he said, a touch of protectiveness in his tone. Vine felt the room tilt, her vision blurring as his words settled over her like a dark cloud. The Taehyung she loved. The man who had once looked at her as though she was his entire world was gone, replaced by a stranger who didn't even know her name. She wanted to scream, to shake him, to make him remember, but instead she bit down on her lip, feeling the string of unshed tears as she struggled to keep her composure. I'll give you some space, she whispered, backing towards the door. She forced herself to turn around, each step feeling heavier than the last. Her mind was a whirlwind of emotions, hurt, disbelief, and an aching sorrow that settled deep within her chest. As she stepped out of the cold, sterile hallway, the weight of the loss crushed her. Taehyung was alive, but the man she had loved for 4 years was gone, lost somewhere in the shadows of his memory. And now she was left standing alone, watching him love someone else as if she had never existed. Hey guys, this is it for part one of this series. I will upload the part two either tomorrow or day after tomorrow. If you are interested to know what happens next, then make sure to subscribe. and like and comment down below what you think would happen next. Make sure to share this video, and if you want, you can follow me on Instagram. I would greatly appreciate it. Also, happy Diwali to each one of you. Hope you're celebrating it with happiness, kindness, and yeah, with your friends and family. I am leaving you guys with a cliffhanger that who is this Suji till I come with a new video. So, yeah, wait for it, and bye bye.